Hi everyone, welcome back to the Missoula Marathon and Half Marathon virtual training class. Today I'm going to be talking about race day prep. So those things that we need to be doing, up to 2 weeks in advance of our race. So first things first, if you haven't picked a race day yet, you need to do that. One of the, nice things about a virtual race is you have the luxury of choosing whenever and wherever you'd like to run your race. So right after you watch this video, make sure you take a look at your calendar and pick the day you'd like to run. Make a big circle around it and make sure you are working hard and holding yourself accountable to that day. So in the few weeks before your race, you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep and you want to make sure you're sleeping well. The night before our race usually leaves us restless and our sleep isn't that great, so it's really important to kind of stock up on the good sleep. You want to focus on your recovery and relaxation processes in the weeks before your race. You want to reduce any unnecessary stress. I like to say at this point in time, make sure my mind is calm and my body's at ease. So do whatever you need to do to kind of get to that point to make sure you're feeling good and ready to go. You want to kind of hone in on your diet and nutrition practices. You want to make sure you're eating well-rounded and well-balanced meals. And a great thing to keep in mind at this point, you want to be satisfied, not full, not stuffed, just satisfied. And avoid excess of those things we typically consider bad. So sugar, caffeine, alcohol, etc. Make sure you're limiting your intake of those items in the weeks before your race. You want to make sure you're hydrating. Hydrating the day before, 2 days before your race is not good enough. That'll probably leave you with a sloshy belly and the need to go to the bathroom a lot. Hydrating is a long process, so if you haven't started already, make sure you are starting now. And remember, you want to hydrate early and often. You want to avoid negative things, negative people, negative thoughts. You really just have no need for any extra stressors at this point in time. So avoid anything that you kind of associate with being negative. You want to plan your virtual race course. So you totally can run the marathon, the traditional marathon or traditional half marathon course. But even with that, make sure you become familiar with the course. Spend some time maybe mapping it out or looking at it on a map. Get some easy runs in the few weeks before your race on that course. Just do whatever you need to do to become familiar with it. Another great tip is maybe drive it or bike it a few days before your race so you really know the whole course without putting that extra stress on your body of running the course. So you want to make your race plan if you haven't already. I hope you have at this point, but if you haven't, it's not a problem. You kind of just want to visualize your race goal, acknowledge what your goal is and the steps you need to take to reach that goal. And also be prepared for all of those what ifs, all of those negative things that may or may not happen during your race. It's better to be prepared for them than not. So if you're having family or friends set up an aid station for you or a cheer station or whatnot, just make sure you communicate with them. It's great to start communicating with them now. Tell them what your plans are, where you'd like them to be, and what you'd like them to be doing. Early and open communication is the best thing to leave you feeling at ease and calm with the situation, but as well as with your friends, family, spectators, and fans. So just make sure everybody kind of knows what's going on. And you're going to want to make a checklist of everything you need to bring with you or you need with you for your race. This is kind of my favorite thing to do before a race. You just really don't need any last minute stress. So I suggest making this, probably right now after you watch this video, a few weeks before your actual race. It'll leave you enough time to kind of, get ready or run any necessary errands to make sure you have everything you need for a successful race. And then at this point in time, by the time you're watching this video, we'll be in kind of what we're calling the taper. So just keep that in mind when you're outside running the next few weeks. You don't want to put out any stressful efforts. You want to keep your runs feeling light and easy and short generally. So since we are in this kind of taper period, we don't want to do anything that will leave our body with any extra stressed, or even our mind extra stressed. We do this because we want to be ready to go, rested and recovered for our race day. So that was kind of a long list of things you need to do in the few weeks before your race. And now I'm going to move on to a couple days before your race. So 2 to 3 nights before your race, 2 to 3 days as well. You're going to want to head to bed early these days. As I said earlier, the night before your race, you'll probably be a little restless and it won't be your best sleep. And that's okay, and that's totally normal. So it's important that we get great sleep the few nights before that night, so we're kind of stocked up on this good energy. And again, you're going to want to continue to pay attention to your diet. You want to continue with the healthy and mindful eating that you've been practicing, as well as drinking. And again, keep in mind, you want to be satisfied, not full, not stuffed. All right. So yeah, just the 2 to 3 days before your race, make sure you're doing everything you've been doing, but maybe pay a little extra attention to it, or devote a little bit more time to doing those little things to ensure that you feel good. So the day and night before your race, you are going to want to get in a short and easy run. We generally call these shakeout runs. You're also going to want to do your usual stretching or your drills. Maybe focus on some of your problem areas with those stretches and whatnot. Just do what you know you need to do to make sure you feel good and loose and ready to go. Again, the day before, you're definitely going to want to eat balanced meals to keep you satisfied, and you're definitely going to want to avoid any foods that have been known to give you GI issues or distress in the past. You're going to want to hydrate, but again, you're not going to want to hydrate too much, otherwise you're going to get that sloshy belly or that urge to go to the bathroom a lot. But most importantly, I think the day before, you're really going to want to just stay off your feet and focus on resting and relaxing. Take it as a you day. Take it as a time to just distress and enjoy it. And then usually the night before, what I like to do, you're going to want to lay out your clothes, your gel, your bib, your headphones, really whatever you need to use during your race, or the period right before or after your race. So again, that might mean if you want to race with a bib, you're going to have to print out your bib. You're going to have to pack some sort of gear bag the night before, maybe with extra socks or an extra layer in case it's cold, or you definitely some extra fluids and extra snacks just in case you get hungry. And packing a gear bag isn't really necessary for a virtual race because we have, the luxury of just stepping outside our front door and running and racing. But it really is a good practice to get into. And if you do have someone drop you off at the start line, I really do think you should pack a gear bag with any of the little extras that you might need for your race. And if you are using some sort of music device, whether that's a phone or an iPod, just make sure you charge it the night before, for the half marathon and the marathon. You guys are going to be out there for a few hours, so it's important that your phone is ready to go so it can provide you the music you need. And then lastly, just head to bed early. Again, it's okay if you have a restless night's sleep. That's completely okay. But just get to bed early and make sure you're focusing on resting the day before your race. So the morning of your race, you're going to want to wake up early to get a good breakfast in you. Most people like to eat 2 to 3 hours before their race. Of course, that varies person to person, and I hope you've been kind of testing out your eating habits by now, but make sure you wake up early enough to get in some good food. You also want to make sure you get up early enough to go to the bathroom. Luckily, we don't have to wait on any annoying porta potty lines for this race, but you still might want to make sure you have enough time to visit the bathroom a few times before your race. And again, you're just going to want to double check that you have all the items you need. Double check the items on your person or in your gear bag. Just make sure you're ready to go. And then right before your race, you're going to want to do, for the most part, your usual warm-up routine. If you usually go for a 2-mile jog, you don't need to do that today or for your race, excuse me. But even just a little half-mile jog, some stretches, some drills, just enough to make sure you're warmed up and ready to go. You don't want to, essentially head into the race cold and tight. That's recipe for disaster. So make sure you're kind of loose and limber and ready to go. And lastly, when you get to your start line, wherever you choose for that to be, make sure you smile, and make sure you kind of remember this long journey you've been on. It hasn't been easy for any of us, but you made it, and that's something we're smiling about. So don't forget to enjoy the day, because it is yours. So then, once our fake, gun goes off, and you're out of the gates and you're running, you're going to want to follow your race plan as best as you can. And that also includes your hydrating and fueling plans. So just to review the hydrating plans, I talked about this a while back in the hydration video, but you're going to want to take small sips about every 5K, so that's about every 3 miles. And then you're going to need nutrition about every 3 to 4 miles, but that could vary based on the nutrition you're taking and kind of the sustenance it has. And make sure your race plans are personalized and kind of adjusted as needed. Sometimes races don't go to plan, and that could be a good thing or a bad thing, but just, be prepared for it and just try your hardest to follow it. So just for pace-wise, a race like the marathon or the half marathon is a long race, so it should feel like a controlled and comfortable effort, especially as you get going and you get started. You're going to want to aim to run most of your miles around the same pace, but if you do feel good, don't be afraid to progressively get faster, and kind of push yourself and test your limits, because when you cross that finish line, you want to make sure you end with kind of nothing in your tank. You want to know that you gave it all you had. So this was kind of all I had for this race day prep video. The video that will follow is kind of in the similar vein. I'm just going to go over kind of post-race routine, what you need to do to rest, recover, and refuel. But if you guys have any questions about your own race day prep, how you should plan things, whatnot, as always, feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to help any of you guys preparing for your big day. So I hope you found this video useful, and as always, let me know if you need anything.